Who remembers watching Channel 1 News on those little TVs mounted on the walls in school? I am convinced that this is one of those things that so many people experience but did not realize was as widespread as it was. And if you do remember watching Channel 1 News, you might not know that this was super controversial, like to the point where it was banned in some places. Channel 1 News was a youth-focused current events program created specifically to be shown to students, middle school and high school students, and it was shown all across the country. The point was to educate kids about world events, news, things that were important, but kids didn't really otherwise probably have a great outlet to learn about. And it started way back in 1990 and ran all the way to 2018. My school didn't have Channel 1 News, at least not that I remember, but I looked up clips on YouTube and I'm honestly so disappointed that I missed out on this. It is a news program, but it also, for the time, from what I saw, feels cool, dare I say? Yes, it's a news show, but they'll have popular music that plays and things that feel cool and relevant. And it's just very obvious that this program was made by people who knew how to appeal to young people. And obviously that was the point. It was to educate students, so it needed to be appealing to students. But also, can we talk about some of the talent that they had on this program? Maria Menounos, I think she got her start on Channel 1 News. Lisa Ling, Anderson Cooper, multiple people who went on to have really successful long-term careers in news and media. So clearly there were people behind this program who knew what they were doing. But here's the thing about Channel 1 News, the catch of Channel 1 News. The programming was free to schools, along with all of the equipment that they needed to show Channel 1 News to their students. Meaning that all the little TVs, like if your school showed Channel 1 News and you had these wall-mounted TVs that looked like they were put up in the early 90s, they were probably put up in the early 90s and they were put up by Channel 1 News. Channel 1 provided the TVs and they also serviced and maintained them. And this was all for free. And they got all of this in exchange for eyeballs, essentially, for student viewers. Because in order to get all of this stuff given to them for free, schools had to sign contracts agreeing to show the programming to their students every single school day for a given duration of time, whatever it was in the contract. Basically, they had to guarantee that their students would watch this program every day. And if they didn't, the company could come take all the stuff away. And the reason this matters, the reason that any of this became an issue is because Channel 1 News had commercials. So that contract was not just guaranteeing that their students were watching this beneficial educational programming. What it really was doing was essentially guaranteeing the students as a captive audience for those advertisers. I think it was a 10-minute long program with 2 minutes of commercial, like regular commercials, same as we were watching on TV. But you have to keep in mind, this was the 90s. The world was different. We weren't living in this online bubble where everything's an ad and we've just accepted this. So to a lot of parents, this was completely unacceptable. And from what I've read about this, it seems like this was a lot more about the principle of it versus the actual ads, because the guy who I guess started the company that distributed Channel 1 News, his business was to create media, to create content for captive audiences, which basically just means an audience that doesn't really have another option. And in the case of students, they were watching in school, so they didn't have the option to like get up and go call their friend or get a snack during the commercials. They had to watch or at least be present during those commercials. And if you're an advertiser, you have a guarantee of your demographic, of your viewer, and a guarantee that they are going to be watching. So from an advertiser perspective, I would imagine that that was very valuable. And the parents were pissed. To put it in modern terms, they didn't want SpawnCon in the classroom. And this went so far as some school districts outright banning Channel 1 News. Some states threatened to pull funding from schools that refused to stop showing Channel 1 News. It became a really big controversy. And like I said, we didn't have Channel 1 News in my school, but from what I've seen, watching it on YouTube, it seems like a well-made program. Like it seems like a valuable resource that did what it intended to do. And it's really interesting because it's really just an early example of what has now become sort of our standard content model, which is essentially if the content is free, then your eyeballs are the cost, right? Like if it's free, it's funded by advertisement, just like this app that we're on. Either way, ads or not, I'm really bummed that I did not get to watch this every day in homeroom in high school.